listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting currently in an actual free state. I am your Conservative Sherpa. I am guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Now, please note that what you're about to watch and hear on this show for at least an hour, perhaps 2 hours, consists of my opinions only and or those of my guests. So what am I doing here? I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one diaper, one leftist diaper at a time. But just as per normal, we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. We're still serving stiff drinks here in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, and common sense for normal people like those around me in my free state. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. And we're streaming live on Rumble at shrmedia.com, on Twitch, X, at BZ's Saloon, on X, and the SHR Media YouTube channel, and shrmedia.com. You can go there quick like a bunny right now. Today is October the 29th. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. It's the year of our Lord, 2024. And I am really glad to see you here. My God, we have Squatch Zone in the chat. We have Jersey Joe in the chat. Now, that's over on Rumble Chat, not Rumble Cat. Rumble Chat. And also, Simone Says. So welcome to all the people over there. And I think in YouTube chat, I've got Joe Antrobus. Good evening, Reaver of Common Sense. Thanks for being here. I grandly appreciate it. So, as I said, I have a gentleman. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? I didn't put anything in the background. What are we going to have? I know. Let's have scary Halloween stuff like this in the background. I paid a full $5.49 for this. So I'm going to get my $5.49 worth of this stuff, this creepy Halloween stuff flying by on Rumble. So welcome to everybody. There's people loading up like a computer on StreamYard. I'm looking at it right there. I'm looking over at the chat room over on Rumble over here. So I grandly appreciate everyone being here. If you would, by the way, as I say, subscribe kindly to Rumble and subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Give us a big thumbs up. Okay, this is weird. Okay, most people, when they have thumbs like this. You know, they kind of go straight for whatever reason. And I've never been able to suss this out. My thumb does that. And I can remember a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I wanted to get into music in the 60s, one guy had looked at me in school and looked at my thumb and said, you said, dude, maybe not dude. He said, you would be a great bass player with a thumb like that, with a little little plectrum and a little tapping. And I thought, bass, what a grand instrument to be able to play. Was I a bass player? Well, I was very briefly at Sac State. And the name of my band for a while, Girl Fight. So, not a really great name for a band. Then I thought General Ripper, that'd be a great name for a band. And then we had a whole bunch of different garage band names. So welcome. If you're looking on the other screen to the right of me, that's right over here. I actually learned how to point. You have to point backwards to where you want your finger to be pointing. That's Alan Thomas, one each over there. And so welcome to Alice. Okay, shut up, Beezy. That stuff's not funny. His name is Alan Thomas. Okay, so Alan, welcome, and it's so good to see you, sir.
Is my camera on?
Shoot, why isn't your mic on? Oh, wait, I know. I need a producer. There, now try it.
We don't have a producer, people.
Oh, that's true.
But hello, everyone.
Okay,
how are you in the BZ's Bobcats radio saloon?
I turned
live
up the
in
computer.
the saloon. I'm in the saloon.
You are.
I hijacked it earlier and did a live on my Squatch Zone.
Well,
channel.
the other thing is that I can't show it, but right over this desk, like right over there, is the Black Pearl. And the cool thing is, at this time last year, Alan Thomas, I flew Alan over here, and he was kind enough to assemble the Black Pearl. And I wish I could regale you with the tales. Alan was here that time for about 2.5 weeks, about 16, 17 days, right around in there, is because we kept encountering all sorts of various computer issues with the assemblage of the Black Pearl until we finally got it, finally nailed it down. There's the Black Pearl sitting on the opposite side of this desk. And there's a small sign over there that says something similar to "Kids, electricity will kill you." Because it's true. I learned that myself. So braving electrical death, Alan Thomas managed to assemble the Black Pearl last year. And so I thought it was such a cute and great gig, and we had such a wonderful time. And there it is. See, it actually has a name.
Does it say it?
Yeah, you can read it. You can see it. The Black Pearl. I named it and made a nameplate for the computer, as you can see right there. And it's big and brawny, and it's got wide shoulders like some city that we're going to talk about in the not too terribly distant future.
All right.
And you can see that. So Alan is going to be here. He arrived this past Sunday. He's going to be here for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, that next Sunday, what is that? I can't see that, though.
On the air.
Oh,
the
on
BZ's Bobcat Saloon.
Okay. That's right.
Oh, you can't see it because it's washed out.
Now we do. The original on the air sign, which was red, it died. And I was so upset with that. So I had to get a new one. I finally got a new one yesterday, as a matter of fact. Put it up, and damn it, Jim, it's not as big as I wanted it to be. So Alan Thomas is going to be here in the saloon for about 2 weeks. And we will be doing shows on Tuesday and on Thursday. And I want to let people know some things about this. The topic for tonight is about General Mark Milley, and he is an absolutely abject, corrupt American traitor. I'll go into that story in just a little bit. There's so much stuff to go over, and I'm sure that I won't get to but a fraction of any of that stuff. But I want to remind everybody, and we were talking about that today, myself and Sackhead Sean and Jersey Joe, we're going to be doing an election show. And this show is coming up. We're going to be doing a Monday show, all three of us, trying to get everybody to vote. And I'm going to be talking about voting here in a minute or two. But the election show is on Tuesday. It's going to be starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to have myself and Sean and Joe and the KLRN staff featuring some very good and nice people, kind people, knowledgeable people. We'll have Lonnie Poindexter and Jeff Dunitz and Earl Jackson coming on the show as well. So again, a reminder that will be starting at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're just going to go until somebody wins, somebody loses. We ran out of booze. We ran out of Coca-Cola. We ran out of our favorite adult beverage until we kind of sort of know one way or the other how this is going to roll. The other thing I want to let everybody know is we have a new gentleman starting in November. And this is a gentleman that I've had on the show before. And this is the nature of his show as it's coming.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
So Earl Jackson coming to the SHR Media Network sometime in November. Earl's going to make a great addition to that. And we are also going to be continued rebroadcasting on KLRN. I want to remind everybody of this, and I'm going to do this probably at least through Thanksgiving. For all the people who are still looking for family members, the survivors, families scattered, there are still hundreds and hundreds of missing people. I'm not sure that we'll ever know how many people perished in Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton. But these supplies are still desperately needed. I don't recommend FEMA, and I don't recommend the American Red Cross. What I do recommend is right here. If you look at the top of this graphic, SamaritansPurse.org, SamaritansPurse.org. They're a religious-driven organization. They have been now there for many weeks, numerous weeks. They're doing great work. And the other that I want to recommend is CajunNavyRelief.com. CajunNavyRelief.com. And if you have your own personal charities that you'd like to donate to, just off the top of my head, I was trying to figure out who the most reasonable people are in terms of donations, and who I believe most of the donations won't go to an overhead or go to some kind of an organization or management or a big building, any of that kind of crap. It generally will go to the people on the ground who truly need it. Food, equipment, all the things that I indicated prior, all of the things that you see right there. These are just plain common sense items that people there are still going to need. Their lives were absolutely turned upside down. Family members killed. I'm not sure. I hesitate to say this. My guess is there will be hundreds, multiple hundreds, who we will never find again out of that. And so Americans generally are very generous. If you can, donate. And I would greatly appreciate that. One of the reasons that I don't recommend doing this to FEMA, and I will continue to write this about FEMA, I had a 3-hour show in which I did nothing but let the survivors talk about what actually occurred and how FEMA essentially did not help. FEMA, when people say, oh no, FEMA didn't give their aid to illegal invaders, here are various illustrations that that's a bunch of crap from FEMA themselves, from Politico, and the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador. Don't listen to that. That's just, that's just junk. So I'm going to get into the Chicago death toll next, and I will get into some happy stories, a bunch of various stories. Then we'll get into the Milley story. There was also a bit of news that just broke recently about Joe Biden and how he quantifies people such as myself and anybody that happens to be listening right now, and Alan Thomas. I'll play that in a moment. I was made aware of that by Sackhead Sean. And it shouldn't be surprising to us, but in any event, Alan Thomas, it's great to see you here, and it's great to see you live right here.
Man, it's an honor to be here. Like, you don't know how exciting it is to be inside the saloon. Like,
well, it's not a big room. It's not all that big. It's not quite luxuriously appointed. I mean, I do have a TV and a monitor and some microphones and stuff like that. But Alan and I hope to be able to do not just the shows on Tuesday and Thursday. Like I say, in terms of a programming note, myself and Sean and Jersey Joe are going to be doing a show about voting on Monday. And there'll be lots of promos for that in terms of that kind of stuff coming. But I hope to go some other places with Alan Thomas. Alan is, well, why should I put words in your mouth? Alan Thomas, tell folks about what it is kind of that you specialize in. And your own channels, your background, your own current channel, who listens to you, and what you're kind of famous for.
Well, I'm kind of like, this is what I do, what we're doing. Only I do it in YouTube, and I'm like I'm not the normal guy, you know. I probably hurt myself more than anything because I speak my mind and I don't believe in censorship.
We both do.
So that hurts my channel quite a bit. But only I can't stop doing it because I just feel like that I'm right. You know what I mean?
I am too, damn it.
We're right. We have the right to do what we're doing, and nobody has the right to tell us to shut up, not even YouTube or Google. So I bucked that, and I always did. Like, I used to be in the casino industry. I was the highest paid guy. People don't believe that, but I was. I actually was hired by Steve Wynn to run 5 casino marketing in 5 casinos. I was over the marketing for 5 casinos. Highest paid guy, highest paid, but only. So I never would wear a suit or a tie. I always wore Levi's and a polo shirt. And everybody, when you're the highest paid guy, you can wear whatever you want, right? That's the good part. Even though all the other guys that worked for me, they had to wear a suit and a tie, but I didn't. Neither did Mr. Wynn. That's the good part. He didn't wear one either, so we matched really good. But only, so I do Bigfoot, aliens, you name it, in the paranormal world. Been doing it for years. Probably was in the podcast business, doing live streaming with video for almost 20 years. Like, when it wasn't a thing, I was doing it. And then when it became a thing, I was pretty good at it. And then when it became a thing to censorship, I was part of that too. So here we are, right? But only it's an honor to be in BZ's Bobcat Saloon. I got in here earlier and I stole his saloon, and I got to sit in the BZ seat. You know, man.
You made your own show there.
I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it. That's how good it is to be in here, and it's like a real honor. Well, anyways, it's great to be here tonight. I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks like you can't believe. And over to BZ.
I hope that he and I will be able to tap Alan's vast knowledge about the paranormal, about UFOs, about Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Alan is he's being very kind, but he's a Bigfoot, Sasquatch investigator, a researcher, has had encounters with those animals, has had paranormal encounters and UFO encounters. I myself have had UFO encounters. Now, were they in fact aliens? I had 3 in 2019. I had one about 1995, and I had another one in 2018. So I have about 5 maybe UFO encounters. And I say that they are UFOs because they are unidentified. I saw them flying, and they were objects. So were they aliens? I got no darn idea. But with each encounter, I was able to write down on a little piece of paper and write down what happened, where did it go, how was it flying, that kind of thing. And someday I will regale people with the tales like that. By the way, Jersey Joe reminds us, don't forget to mash the like button, smash the subscribe button, if you would. I am BZ, your Conservative Sherpa. You're in the Saloon. We're going to talk in a bit about General Milley being a corrupt traitor that he is. This is, in fact, Alan Thomas. Subscribe to Rumble and the SHR Media YouTube channel. While you're here, if you would do us a big favor, give us a thumbs up on the show. See, thumbs, base thumbs right there. I guess I'm going to have to call them base thumbs.
I'm first. I got it.
In the future.
I'm number 1.
Are you? Cool.
Yep, I got
nice.
the first thumb.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And of course, I have my standard Mark 1, Model 1, plush, sumptuous, and palatial chat room. So if I pull this out and I pull this out, you can see what it looks like. The chat room is unparalleled. And if you would, please jump into the chat room. And I appreciate everybody being here tonight. So for one, let's pull this out. And I want to talk about voting very quickly. And I'm going to say this until November 5th. I've said it many times before. I'm going to continue to say this. No matter how you think, no matter how you feel about Trump, and this is a show for conservatives because I am, period, end of statement. But I want to emphasize to everybody that there is not going to be any kind of a red wave. There's not going to be any kind of a red tsunami. We got in big trouble with that about 2022, if I'm not mistaken, following off the heels of 2020, which everyone said was going to be a huge red wave, huge tsunami. No, it wasn't. Now, there are times for going into why that was necessarily. That's not really the point of being here tonight. And I know we all have our opinions about what happened. But the dealio is right now, every conservative, every Republican, every individual who really wants to save this nation, and it desperately requires saving, you have to show up to the polls. If you're allowed to vote early, people say, oh, if you vote early, then it gives the Democrats the knowledge, the foreknowledge to pack all the ballots, to negate those people who voted early. What I say is lock your vote in. It's like a suspect. Lock the suspect into the statement. Lock your vote in as early as possible. Who knows what kind of mayhem and stupid fattening stuff is going to happen on voting day? Who knows what's going to happen to the voting machines? And that's why I suggest if you can do that in your area, vote early. I did, not on Monday, but on Tuesday. Imagine that. And boy, did I feel good after having voted that particular day. And so continue with that. Please vote early. Ensure that you have your opinions heard. Okay, by the way of the polls and by way of the ballot, because now more than any, if you were even remotely thinking, oh, well, my vote doesn't count, bull. Now more than ever, every vote counts.
It's hard to cheat when there's a landslide of voting.
And the only way, as Alan indicates, that we're going to have any kind of a landslide, don't count on it, is that if we all do our jobs. I did my job. I voted early. We had a sheriff's election. I got into politics with my local sheriff, who's an independent candidate running for sheriff. I had 3 shows about that. I'm getting more and more into politics, but every vote counts.
You know, it's kind of like a war. Like, do you really want to go to war and get in a bloody battle? Well, the battle this time, if you're going to be a patriot and really get in the war and get in the thick of it, it means you got to go vote. That is your weapon. That is how you get involved. That is how we win. I mean, luckily, we don't got to go out with our pitchforks and, you know, muskets and everything. We can go vote, and we are doing our thing right then to win the war. That is how we all are going to win, is actually go vote.
As I've said before any number of times, I'm done with bipartisanship and compromise. This is what they, Democrats, leftists, globalists, have done to us. When I say they, you know who they are. They call us racists. They call us fascists. They call us Nazis. They call us terrorists. They call us weird. They call us deplorables. Thanks, Hillary. They called us stupid, homophobes, all sorts of obes and ists. They call us evil. Make no mistake, they hate us. They attack us. They attempt to kill us, as in President Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. They want to imprison us. Steve Bannon just got released from prison today, as a matter of fact. They wish to replace us, and by that I mean replace actual Americans. I couldn't give a crap less about your melanin count or your paint job. Us is all actual Americans. They lie to us. They mean every word they say. When we tell a joke, they twist the words in terms of Puerto Ricans. And there are many Puerto Ricans who have said they got the joke. They do that so that they can condemn us. I say we have very little common ground anymore between them. Make no mistake, they are at war with us and they are the enemy. You tell me what the common ground is in abortion. You tell me what the common ground is with dead fetus. You tell me what the common ground is in free speech in the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment. There is no common ground. You either hold these things or you don't. It's no more complicated than that. And as I've said, and other people have said, and apparently Donald Trump Jr. said something very similar to this, but I've been saying it for a long time. You have to vote like the ramp chains of Noah's Ark are starting to get yanked and pulled from inside. And the last pair of monkeys are walking up. And you're the third monkey, buddy. And by the way, it's starting to rain. That's how you have to vote. You have to vote like President Trump is down 20 points in the polls. You have to vote like your very freedom and liberty is at stake. Your family's freedom and liberty. Your family's freedom and liberty. All your relatives, your kids, your grandkids, the freedom of their kids. It's all on the ballot. It literally is on the ballot. Democrats and leftists want you to stay home for 2 very important reasons. And they're going to push this on you. It's either going to be one way or the other. They want to convince you of these 2 things. The first is, Harris is so far behind. You know, she's being crushed by Trump. Your vote isn't necessarily, because, you know, that'd be unfair. We can't have piling on. So already early in the polls, you know, before the polls close, you're hearing before it's 8:00 and the polls close, Harris is so far behind. Oh, we don't need your vote. Nobody needs your vote. You may as well stay home. No. Or they're going to try to convince you that Harris is so damn far ahead and the polls haven't closed yet. What do you need to make a trip to the polls? Because you're already being crushed. your vote is not going to mean a thing. Not a thing. And there's no way that your puny little stupid ballot is going to make any kind of a difference at all. So guaranteed that those are the two things of which they're going to try to convince you. And this, I've been saying, I had a 1960s, this is how old I am, a 1960s civics teacher named Mr. Helms, who said, and I remembered, Democrats don't win elections, Republicans lose them. This is our election to lose, which means that we can be already at win, but we have to treat this as if all of the things that I just said are true. We're 20 points behind. You got to get out. You got to vote. That election is ours to lose. We must not lose. The country and every actual American in it is at stake. Real, actual Americans, not illegal invaders. Our freedoms are at stake. So please, you can't stay home. Please get out and vote because, as I emphasize, every vote counts. Absolutely. Every vote counts. And so, with no further ado, I'm going to have to go into this.
Alleviating Zeppelin's HeyJackass.com Chicago death toll update. Courtesy of every leftist running that city. From the mayor, police chief, and every autocrat in the 50 wards.
So I wasn't watching the time. We're past due a break. I'm going to do this, and then we will go to a break, and then we'll be back. Anyway, here I am at HeyJackass.com. HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. October to date, shot and killed 47, shot and wounded 183. Total shot 230, total homicides 50. Week in progress. October the 27th to November the 2nd, shot and killed 1, shot and wounded 14, total shot 15, total homicides 1. Year to date, shot and killed 462, shot and wounded 2,164. Total shot 2,626, total homicides 521. What's coming up? Halloween. There will be a big jacking up of the numbers at Halloween. Imagine that in Chicago, a city of big shoulders. By the way, in Chicago, a person is shot there every 2 minutes and 46 seconds, and a person is murdered in Chicago every 13 minutes and 55 seconds.
The Bloviating Zeppelin's HeyJackass.com Chicago death toll update. Courtesy of every leftist running that city. From the mayor, police chief, and every autocrat in the 50 wards.
And as I said, I would warn everyone and let you know that until the election, I'm going to play this because this is who you are potentially voting for. She meant what she said. She has always meant what she said when she's a leftist. Here we go.
My values have not changed.
Her values have not changed.
Boston Marathon bomber. They should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah. Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, I'm in favor of banning fracking. I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal.
I support a mandatory buyback program.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross the border as criminals.
The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea.
Yeah, you are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. 70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chipping now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
And I should also care to remind you, everybody, of this as well. Remember, Kamala Harris was never, ever, ever named border czar, right?
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Okay, and that's the American maggots, in their own words, calling Kamala Harris a border czar. I'm BZ, that's Alan Thomas. You're in the Saloon. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10.
All ages. I'm BZ. I'm back. That's Alan Thomas. He's back as well. So thanks for being here tonight. If you would share this, and if you would hit the subscribe button, shrmedia.com. You can watch us there. The SHR Media YouTube channel. Please subscribe to us there. And also rumble.com. The entire SHR Media group is there. And on Rumble, please subscribe. Give us a big, kind of a rounded, weird-ass thumb, bass thumping kind of thumbs up there, too, if you would, please. Thanks for being here tonight. Just out recently, and I thank Sackhead Sean and Joe for pointing this out to us. This is what Joe Biden happens to think of all of you people who are voting for Trump. You're garbage. Well, he didn't say that, did he?
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Okay, so you're garbage, and please remember that when you step into the voting booth. Oh, darn. Okay, I was going to go this here next. Let's do this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Here's one. In a Center for American Rights, the Center for American Rights files an FCC complaint against WCBS TV. Why would that be, as a matter of fact? Conservative group files complaint accusing station's owner of news distortion in its editing of a 60 Minutes interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. Essentially, they're filing a complaint with the FCC regarding the biased editing of that. And the transcript, release the transcript. There is only one reason why CBS will not release the transcript is because it is a written word salad having and showing, clearly indicating that Kamala Harris cannot string a cogent sentence together. That's the truth. Here's another happy story. Why aren't leftists and Democrats happy about this? Yes, Kamala Harris is in fact a DEI hire. Why aren't they happy? This is exactly what they want. And this is exactly what they're getting. So, Trump, what's Trump? He's white. He's 78. He's going to be 79 here shortly. But what happened? There was a coup against Joe Biden to install her. Why aren't leftists happy, overjoyed that she's being called a DEI hire? Wasn't that what everybody wants? Apparently so, but apparently not simultaneously. This is a great ad. This is about never quitting. I listened to this. I watched this to the point where I want to play it for you tonight. Very well assembled.
When I first came into office, I cut taxes more than any other president. We have created 7 million new jobs, and it led to a growth like we've never seen before. We developed the greatest economy in history by far. When I left office, it changed. Inflation destroyed the lives of so many people. Interest rates went from 2% to 10%. Millions of illegal immigrants, traffickers, and drugs coming into our country. Our country has gone to hell. So I made a decision to run. We're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. I will fight for you with every breath, and I will never let you down. I'm gonna fight like a G, they all gonna see, and if I die, I'm gonna die free.
President Trump is literally putting his life on the line, and he's willing to risk it all because he loves this country.
He is strong, he is fearless, and he is what this country needs right now.
Our cities will be safe, our streets will be clean, and our border will be secure.
We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
The left told me to hate Trump. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger.
So if you love this country, If you want to stand up and fight for the future of our nation, you must re-elect Donald J. Trump.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That is a great ad. But men, why aren't you voting for Kamala Harris? Men, why not Kamala Harris?
Dear Kamala Harris, let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you. You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops like wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors.
Ooh.
And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean. She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school. I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community. I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel. All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicide.
Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
Yeah.
My message to all Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
Paid for by Maha Alliance and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Is that the government that you want? Is that the government that you want? And as I indicate, and I've said for years, your paint job is absolutely immaterial. It doesn't matter. Your melanin count doesn't matter. The government and what the government does to the American citizens, that is what matters. Listen to Tricia Lindsay. What truth, what guts.
We, the people, is how the Constitution starts. A magistrate is a person that operates under authority. They have power. There are higher magistrates and there are lesser magistrates. The founding fathers of this country understood that there's going to come a point in time where the federal government will need to be checked. If not, they will become tyrants. And that is what's happening now. So, the Declaration of Independence says that everyone, by virtue of being a human being, has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The federal government, too, the federal government, their purpose is to protect the rights of those citizens, the rights of us to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The third point of that document is if they fail to protect its citizens and enforce those rights, the citizens have a right to revolt. You understand? We have a right to resist, and we have an obligation and a duty to do so. You understand? You understand when it says a duty to step between a tyrannical government and its laws? They are coming for our children. We cannot sit down.
No.
Every great leader knows, every one of them, even the bad ones know, that if you want to affect the country, you go for its children. When in the world do we start using children as bulletproof vests for us?
Yeah.
When in the world do we start testing things on children?
Legal shield.
Us first. And when you come for our children, you have started a war. And they have declared war. And we are answering to that war. We are magistrates, and I need you, each one reach one and teach one. Do you understand? As a magistrate in this country, the United States government, our local leaders have to answer to us. The 9th Amendment says that any rights that are not enumerated in the Constitution are reserved for the people.
The people.
I want to hear that mandates are not enumerated in the Constitution, because for the stuff that is not enumerated means that that authority and those rights go to us. Every one of these mandates are illegal. Every single one of them. Under that 14th Amendment, due process and rights to equal protection is the right to protect my body. When you want to push something into my body against my consent, without my consent, it is rape. And this is medical rape.
Imagine that. Imagine that you have people saying that to force me into one thing is bad, but to force me into another, that's okay. And that's the hypocrisy that you see with regard to leftists. Now, I play this. Who is she? This is interesting. Her name is Tricia Lindsay. She's a Republican and a member of the Conservative Party. She's running for election to the New York State Senate, District 37. She's on the ballot for this November 5th. The Republican and Conservative Party primaries, they were canceled. She's on the ballot. She believes that you have a right, a vaccine right, and a right to protect your children. Imagine that against an oppressive government. Now, please note the biggest difference between her and a host of leftists and Democrats and globalists. She's not advocating a riot. She's not advocating burning down the government. She's advocating doing what you must do lawfully in order to change things, and that's why she's running for Senate. Imagine, there are things that you can do that are lawful. I'm going to play something, and this is a big difference now in 2024 and from now on. It's incumbent, absolutely incumbent upon American citizens, and particularly now, Republicans, conservatives, independents, to be wise consumers of media and sense and know when something is AI. I'm going to play something for you that is AI generated. And you have to use your common sense and logic. Use your brain. Can't flip it off. You can't afford that. You're going to hear words out of an individual that looks like Barack Hussein Obama. And at the end, you're going to say, why, BZ, why did you end up playing that? If you gave a disclaimer at the beginning saying, this isn't Barack Hussein Obama. And the reason for that is this. Do not doubt for a moment, for a microsecond, that this isn't exactly how leftists and Democrats are thinking. Did he come out and say these words in public? I've never seen it documented anywhere. But I'm playing this with the disclaimer that you can be guaranteed that this is exactly what he and anyone around him are thinking and saying and hoping just for you.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
The game is won, and they know it, and that's how they operate. And that's why I want you to know that and have heard that so that you understand. Because they want to be the absolute gatekeepers of alleged truth, air quotes, truth. And if you give them that opportunity, they will. It goes back to what I call Thug's Law. And I learned Thug's Law and the 80-20 rule when I was in law enforcement for 4 decades, plus 1 or 2. Thug's Law is this. This is how the street works. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, unless you're strong enough to stop me. Now, how does that translate? That translates into Democrats and leftists and globalists as this. We're going to do whatever the hell we want, when we want to do it, whether it's against the law or not, whether there's a groundswell for it or not, unless you stop me. And if you don't stop me, if pastors, you ignore politics, you're going to get steamrollered, and you're going to find your pulpit gone, and you're going to find your church gone, and you're going to find your religion gone. And if you don't object, if you don't take standing, if you don't push back, then these people are going to win. That's Thug's Law. They will do it, are doing it, have been doing it, and will continue to do it in the future until you push back or sue the crap out of them, and you have to win, by the way. And even that will not stop them. They will continue.
They have shown how well they work together to do even evil. Or cheating. It doesn't matter what. They stick together and they push and push and push, and they get louder and louder and louder. And we, as I guess we're really so nice. We just go, oh, we shouldn't bother them. They'll stop. They're not that bad. No. Oh yeah, they are. They aren't going to stop. They will steamroll you. And they pretty much showed they will.
Well, in history, the best indicator of future performance or lack thereof is past performance or lack thereof. Folks, it's just about the end of the first hour. I am BZ. You are in the saloon. That is Ellen Thomas over to my right. We're going to take a brief break. Now is perhaps a wonderful time for you to take, a pee break, or maybe get a drink and then come back, right back into the saloon, if you would please.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR.
hearing the breaks. If you happen to be in the chat room, would you let me know if you're hearing the breaks? There was an individual that just came into the studio here and said that you can't hear the breaks. So if you would, in either the YouTube channel chat room, Greenhorn Trucker says, not hearing the breaks. Okay. And if anybody happens to be in Rumble, let me know if you are or are not hearing the breaks. I would appreciate that, because that means that I have more work to do. At this point, I'm just going to assume that you're not hearing the breaks. And perhaps you can take your phone with me. With luck, maybe you had the ability to hit the electric winkle chamber at this point. But I will continue as if, well, no, you weren't able to hear these things. I'm going to have to figure out what the dealio is on my end. So in any event, let's continue with the truth. And the truth is this. The TV hits Trump with 85% negative news versus 78% positive news for Harris. So the fix is in, as you well know. And this is a news story. This is just bizarre. Okay, this is from the New York Post. And this is why I believe them. If you remember, the New York Post they're the people that broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. So I tend to believe them. I tend to believe that they are actual journalists. Tim Walz is accused of pushing Chinese Communist Party official's daughter to the brink of suicide during some kind of a stormy, love-tossed affair in the 1980s. Democrat Vice President nominee Tim Walz had a love affair with the daughter of a Chinese Communist Party official during his teaching stint in Foshan that was so stormy it drove her to the brink of suicide, the Post has learned. Now, this isn't the actual point. That he had a love affair? I don't know. That's between he and his wife and God, or whatever God that he does or does not believe in. The point is, after this and other associations with Communist China, and a number of associations that were to continue, he seems to have a love fest with Communist China itself. So you cannot tell me that because of that, China is not or will not in the future, if Harris is elected, continue to favor Communist China. That's like Dianne Feinstein had a Chinese spy in her office who originally started as her driver in the 70s. And then he became her assistant. And then he began to help her with bills. If you remember, she was on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Do you think perhaps that guy got his hands on various documents that he forwarded to Communist China? Well, yes, because he was a communist spy. That's right. So I submit this to you as well. Do you remember the FBI came calling to Senator Dianne Feinstein and said, knock, knock, knock. Hey, Di-Fi, you have a communist spy in your office. Let's help root him out. And then remember the Trump campaign? We think you may have been compromised by the Russians. Did anybody from the FBI, DOJ, or anyone else come up to the Trump campaign and make a notification of that and say, by the way, we'd like to get inside and try to figure out where that spy was? No, they decided they were going to come after the campaign itself. Two distinct different levels of being treated. So the point is not that he had some kind of a torrid love affair. The point is that he is a communist Chinese sympathizer, has been, and always will continue to be. That's my absolute point of this. Now here's a story that I believe that you need to be aware of, because this is reprehensible, absolutely disgusting. What leftists have done, and they're the ones that talk about disinformation, misinformation, fake news. We have to censor. We don't need a First Amendment. We don't need free speech. Then they do this. Liberals spread fake image of Kamala's face superimposed on a female Canadian McDonald's employee who died of cancer in 2007. So let's have a close-up of this a little bit, or let's let it take center stage. And take a peek. There's the fake image on the left. There's the proper image on the right. And leftists have decided that, well, this is fine. A digitally altered image of Kamala Harris dressed as a McDonald's employee has gone viral on social media, sparking debate over her recent claim that she once, in fact, worked at a McDonald's in Alameda, California. The photo was spread far and wide by leftists and Democrats as proof of Harris's claim. It's actually a modified image of a white Canadian woman who passed away from cancer in 2007. How much of I kind of am at a loss for the words. How do you do this? How can you possibly manage to do that to somebody that died of cancer? And then I know I'll steal their image in order to lie about Kamala Harris. In any event, here's a guy that was in the Democrat Party, and then he left. Well, why would that be?
Because during the 2020 George Floyd COVID craziness, the Democrats became very fascist. And they want to gaslight us like the Republican Party is the fascist party, when the Democrats are the ones who locked people up inside their homes during COVID, didn't allow people to earn an income, and even had people fired from their jobs if they didn't take a rapidly developed vaccine. Y'all suppressed free speech through bullying and intimidation tactics, and the Democratic Party collaborated with social media companies to suppress political speech online. Y'all legally persecuted your political opposition and tried to put him in jail. Y'all tried to remove him from the ballot in some states so that people wouldn't even have the option to vote for him if they wanted to. And then with no public voting process whatsoever, you guys installed your current candidate. But you want us to believe that the Republicans are the fascist ones? I left the Democratic Party because you guys became the fascists. You guys became the ones obsessed with control. I refuse to be gaslit into believing otherwise, and that's why I haven't looked back since leaving. You want to know why I left the...
Well, that's one explanation. And that's one of many as to why Democrats are leaving the Democrat Party. And I like to let people speak in their own words. And that guy, I believe, did a wonderful job. Here's something that I need everyone to be aware of. This is from Michael Schellenberger. In the last few hours, remember how Trump, everyone, they're Hitler, they're fascist, Hitler, fascist, Hitler, fascist. The Madison Square Garden shindig, as a matter of fact. Only people who are like Hitler have campaign rallies at Madison Square Garden. So obviously Roosevelt in 1940, Hitler. Truman in 1948, Hitler. Johnson in 1964, Hitler. And also Bill Clinton live at a rally at Madison Square Garden, Hitler. So a leaked memo shows that stupid fascism label, it's not working. So what are we going to have to do? Well, maybe we'll have to do something else. It's not being that terribly persuasive. And what about them lying about the true nature of the scale of the alien invasion? That's not working real well either, as a matter of fact. Well, then also, what about the elections? What about the election itself? What about election integrity? What about election security? What about election lawfare? Now, listen to this and you tell me what part of this makes any kind of sense whatsoever to you. in about a minute and 30 seconds.
Today in Georgia, a judge ruled that election officials have to certify results, even if voter fraud is suspected. And around the state, Democrats are suing to prevent drop box surveillance, hand counting ballots, and voter ID protections. Why are Democrats trying to make elections less secure? Especially while
Excellent
many
question.
states across the country are finding thousands of people who aren't citizens on the voter rolls, like in Virginia, where Governor Youngkin removed more than 6,000 non-citizens from the rolls. The Biden-Harris administration didn't like that. The Justice Department is now suing Virginia for cleaning up the voter rolls, something Virginia governors have been doing for years.
Why is it that anyone could argue that a process that removes non-citizens off of our voter rolls is anything else other than common sense and constitutional? This is a law that's been on our books since 2006. It was a law that was signed by then Democrat Governor Tim Kaine. This is why I find this to be a very, very unreal moment that is stunning, that they filed this suit 25 days before a presidential election, when in fact this has been going on in accordance with our Constitution, the federal Constitution, and state law since 2006.
It's simple. We just want free and fair elections. Democrats are trying to loosen the rules and get Republicans.
Well, that's not the end of it, of course. As you would expect, I've done a little digging, a little deeper. And what I've discovered is this. Oh, wait. There was a postal worker in Florida who was arrested for stealing over 1,000 pieces of mail, including election ballots, and dumping them in the woods. I wonder how that particular individual voted, or what the political leaning of that individual might be. How can we ever tell? How would we ever know? So all these ballot drop boxes that everybody wants are not secure. After this article, I have another one to show and prove that they are not secure. So what are leftists doing? Do you possibly think that people on the right, conservatives or Republicans, are burning their own ballots? My guess would be, my common sense says something similar to, oh, hell no. That's not who's doing that. It would be leftists who are afraid of Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. So here we have drop boxes, ballot drop boxes, that are set on fire in Oregon and Washington. Oh, wait. What do we know about Oregon and Washington? They wouldn't be heavily blue states, would they? Well, as a matter of fact, yes. The FBI is investigating 2 ballot drop boxes that went up in flames in the Portland, Oregon area early on Monday. Portland, Oregon, the locus of insanity in Oregon. Hundreds of ballots were burned in Vancouver, then, a small city in Washington state, less than 10 miles from Portland. BZ said, scratching his beard. I wonder if the same person may possibly have been involved in that. Meanwhile, in the southeast portion of Portland itself, an incendiary device was placed inside a drop box, causing a small fire that damaged 3 ballots, according to officials. As I am wont to say quite frequently, but wait, there's more. In Fresno, California, a voter drop box was left unsecured at a Fresno school with the key in it for 7 hours. Now, is there video of this? Is there surveillance of the drop box? Do we know what happened to this drop box? Do we know if it was opened? We don't know any of that. Fresno County Elections says a key for the drop box at Fancher Elementary School was left in the lock for over 7 hours, leaving the box unsecured with the chance of ballots to be stolen or replaced or simply removed or have new ballots inserted in there. Officials say the key and what was inside the drop box were recovered. But yet we've got people who want to make sure bills going through that drop boxes cannot be surveilled, cannot be examined. Now, folks, as Beasy is wont to say, why would something like that be wanted? Why would you not want to have election security? As leftists and Democrats are wont to say, if we can only save one child by outlawing all guns, why wouldn't we do that? If we can keep one American from being killed by illegal invaders by securing our border, why wouldn't we do that? If we can keep illegal and unlawfully filled or filched ballots, if we could keep them safe, why wouldn't we do that? Well, I think you know the answer to that. And the answer is, it's all about cheating. Well, we had somebody on that you just heard, Ms. Lindsay, who's running for Senate in New York, talk about using things lawfully in order to, well, push back against the government. We know about the government. This is nothing new. Well, here's a report. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Brace, this is from Breitbart.com. Brace for unrest if Donald Trump wins, Democrats. Democrats warn. Are we warning? I'm not warning. Was Lindsay warning? She's not warning. Did she say that she plans riots or civil disturbances or setting things on fire or arson or destroying buildings or blinding law enforcement officials in the eye, as did occur in all of 2020? No, it was the leftists who were violent. So Americans should prepare for unrest if former President Trump completes the greatest political comeback in modern American politics. Democrats told the Wall Street Journal on Monday. This should absolutely not come as any surprise. Democrats are the party of racism and nuts, insane people, and the party of violence, the party of political violence. Speaking of nuts, Representative, perfectly named, aptly named, Dingell tells Jake Tapper he might have to visit her in an internment camp if Trump wins. She's Michigan's Democrat, Debbie Dingell, Dingley, surprised Jake Tapper by insisting that former President Trump has shared plans to put people into internment camps if he's reelected. These people are just insane. There's no other way to express that in any way whatsoever. And the American media maggots are completely 100% complicit in this, including the New York Times. Anybody read this from Ben Shapiro and a particular so-called alleged journalist? If you were wondering what the legacy media would plan for its October surprise wonder no longer it's here today, Ben Shapiro got this text from a reporter at the New York Times. Hey, Mr. Shapiro, I hope you're well. I'm Nico Grant, a reporter at the New York Times. When was the last time you killed a member of your family? I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment. You'll understand where I'm going with this in just a moment. I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment for an upcoming article that takes a look at how political commentators discussed the upcoming election on YouTube. We rely on an analysis conducted by researchers at Media Matters for America. Stop. Media Matters for America is the largest damn leftist organization regarding journalism on the planet extant, period. Could you kindly provide us with a comment or decline to comment by end of day tomorrow, Tuesday, today, as it's passing? Thanks so much for your time. Here are the points we plan to include. Media Matters identified 286 YouTube videos between May and August that contained election misinformation, including narratives that have been debunked or are not supported with credible evidence. By whom? Nico Grant. themselves?
It was me.
Oh, was it you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sorry for not putting your microphone on.
That's all right.
Researchers identified videos posted by you, Ben Shapiro, in those 4 months that contained election misinformation. We featured a clip, and so I have questions. Are you a member of the YouTube Partner Program? If so, how frequently does YouTube demonetize your videos? Has YouTube sent you messages, emails, or notices in the last year that the content contains misinformation? By the way, when was the last time you killed a family member? And I'm not going to give you any kind of an opportunity really to rebut. And I give you 35 seconds, as I indicated in the email, to rebut, or I'm just going to make up my own shit anyway. Thanks, Nico Grant. That's how New York Times operates. Now, I'm not going to go over this right now, probably on another show, maybe this next Thursday show. But Jeff Bezos wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post where it says democracy dies in darkness. And I say democracy actually dies in D.C. We'll get to this article. But for the rest of the show, what I'd like to do is tell you about, let me pot this down here a little bit. About General Milley. Now, this is interesting. General Milley, let's see if we can do this. General Milley.
Well, while you're doing that, I have one little question.
Sure, you bet.
This one really bothers me on the election thing.
Alrighty.
I feel like, and I pretty much know, they cheated in 2020, right?
I completely believe that.
I didn't see a fix for this one. Nobody fixed it. So that's the only concern I have. Like, is there somebody out there monitoring this or collecting evidence? Is that what's going to happen? Like, are they ready to bust these people? Like, is something set up like a sting to keep the election straight? Or are we going to see Trump get more votes than he ever got in any presidential election and still lose, just like last time?
Okay, I could lie to you, or I could give you my actual opinion. What would you prefer?
The opinion.
The lie?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I respect what you say because you have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on way more than I do. I'm like looking at UFOs and Bigfoots and
listen, there's a time and a place for all that stuff, and that's why I love to have you on the show. In terms of politics, I would love to be able to say, I'll take a step back before I get into General Milley. I would like to be able to say that I believe that there are a ton of things that have been repaired between 2020 and 2024. I would like to say that I am assured that with so many people, including attorneys, that will be monitoring election locales, that they'll be able to do something about those in the past who have taken up cardboard and plywood and affixed it to the walls so people on the outside cannot watch them cheat on the inside, because that's the only reason for that. When things are not transparent, as with CBS, for example, the only reason not to do that is to make sure that you don't know the truth. The only reason to cover up that in terms of elections is to make sure you don't know the truth. And then you do it complicit with judges who buy into that crap, because so many people, organizations, cities, the deep state is against somebody who wants to bust the deep state. Now, see, that's a perfect transition into the story about Milley. Because you have to understand that Milley is just one guy in the deep state, a former military dude who makes about maybe $206,000 a year. He is about to embiggen his wallet to the point, the potentiality for him to become a multimillionaire and potentially a perhaps I could go so far as to say a billionaire. The potentiality exists because he has hooked his star to JP Morgan Chase and by way of that to BlackRock. Well, what? BZ, by the way, on the bottom of the hour, I'm obviously not going to do the break because there's something that's going wrong with that. I'm just going to continue. But what I'm going to talk about now is, in fact, General Milley. And I believe, A, that he's an American traitor, and B, he despises President Trump, and C, he has the most base of motivations for this depiction possible. Now, though I couldn't play the breaks, I guess, I'm going to attempt to play a YouTube synced and aligned with this about Biden, but we'll get to that in a moment. I have that broken out separately. So, as a general axiom, and certainly one of my axioms, when people say it's not about the money, that means it's about the money. And this is certainly true of retired General Mark Milley, also a traitor to the United States of America. Anybody remember, go back in the Wayback Machine, anybody remember when Milley stated he would notify Communist China if President Trump decided to act against Communist China? I do. And I bet Alan does. And many of you here recall that as well. And all the leftists and the Democrats and people in the military say, that's a bunch of bull. Well, I'll let you decide on that. So from the New York Post, by the way, like I indicated, the same newspaper, they just happened to publish the truth about the Hunter Biden laptop and then had its stories completely scrubbed from the internet. And they kind of came drizzling back like Al Capone with bad syphilis. They had their stories.
50 guys.
What?
50 agent, top military and
the 51 intelligence specialists who said, oh, that's Russian disinformation. Yeah. Bullshit.
Well, I mean, that will make any red-blooded American, supposedly good citizen go, oh, well, it must be true.
Right. It has to be true because, why would our alphabet agencies lie to us? They have no motivation for that. So then after that, hundreds of thousands of social media users on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all sorts of digital locations like me had our stories scrubbed from the internet. And then eventually Twitter just killed me. I managed to get back only by way of Elon Musk, I should say, which is another reason why people despise Elon Musk. People, I mean Democrats and leftists. Censored. These people were censored. I was censored in many cases. Accounts were closed permanently. Mine wasn't then. It was suspended for 90 days and eventually dead. So here's some truth. And this is from, the New York Post. Milley admits he would tell Chinese general if U.S. launched an attack. This is back on September 29th of 2021. This is the truth. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, admitted Wednesday that he would give his Chinese counterpart a heads up if the U.S. launched an attack against Beijing during a second day of grilling on Capitol Hill that touched on his two reported calls from him to the Chinese general. I said, hell, I'll call you, but we're not going to attack you, Milley told the House Armed Services Committee about one of his conversations with General Li Zusheng of the People's Liberation Army, communist Chinese. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. No problem. Milley was questioned about two calls he made to Lee in October 2020 before the presidential election and on January 8th, 2 days after the Capitol riot stop. Who got impeached by a phone call to Ukraine? Oh, that would be Donald John Trump. And he wasn't doing this. He wasn't threatening the country like this dude did. He told members of the panel that he reached out to Lee to assure him that President Donald Trump did not intend to launch a military strike. Now, you see, to me, it was clearly evident that General Milley had forgotten his place, his role in allegedly serving the United States of America. And he'd very clearly forgotten his oath and to whom he had sworn an allegiance. Well, the article continues, you articulating that you would tell him you would give him a call is worthy of your resignation. I just think that's against our country that would call our number one adversary and tell him that. Milley was told, according to Peril, the Washington Times book by reporter Bob Woodward and Robert Costa, Milley told Lee he would give the Chinese advance warning of an attack. Wait. Okay. To the U.S., not to its enemies. Milley believed he owed communist China a warning rather than to our own president, whom he betrayed, and the American people as well. Let me reemphasize and emphasize emphatically, it is not Milley's job, nor any general officer's job, to conduct policy and communicate policy of this nature, of this high import, to the largest enemy of the United States of America, that being communist China. There's a reason they are communist China. Hello, they're our enemy. But this is a clear indicator to me of who he is, who Milley is at his core. He is an abject traitor. Oh, BZ, you bandy that word about so easily and readily. I hope you have proof. He's an abject traitor. He believed he was the president, not the actual sitting president of the United States, then Donald Trump. He believed it was up to him to set policy, not Congress. By assuring communist China our obvious enemy, Milley managed to completely do away with two entire branches of the government. Gone. But he kept his job. In my estimation, that was a really, really serious error on Trump's part. So treason, BZ, you throw that word around so easily. Well, what's the U.S. code regarding treason? It's 18 U.S.C. 2381. And it's very short, and it's very clear, and it's very evident. All it says is this in roughly one paragraph. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them, enemies, aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. The penalty for conviction of treason, a penalty that, let's go back to, 1953. The penalty of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg in 1953 was death for treason. So please, after looking at that and examining that simple, rather very simple, clear paragraph, you tell me what part of Milley's actions do not constitute treason. Let me repeat, at the risk of engaging the Department of Redundancy Department, Milley told General Lee he would give the Chinese advance warning of an attack. Obviously, I'm misinterpreting what was meant there. So, okay, point being made, General Milley recently commented on Donald Trump due to his candidacy for president. And Milley said, Trump is fascist to the core. So here's another story. Trump's former Joint Chief Chair, Trump is fascist to the core. That came out October 14th. As the Washington Post reported, Milley apparently put subtlety aside when speaking to Bob Woodward for the longtime journalist's new book. So Milley warned that former President Donald Trump is a fascist to the core and the most dangerous person to this country in new comments, voicing his mounting alarm at the prospect of the Republican nominee's election to another term. Apparently, however, Trump was, this is Milley now. Oh, Trump's a fascist. Well, evidently, Trump was insufficiently fascist for Milley to resign from his position, which he didn't do, take an actual stand, which he didn't do, and potentially, that could, no bueno. That could have affected his retirement. Can't have that. Trump apparently then, according to Milley, was just kind of fascist, not totally fascist, a wee bit fascist, but enough in which to verbally complain and get immured into a book by Bob Woodward. So in general, let's examine the meaning of the word and understand how those who accuse others of fascism are doing the precise same thing themselves, only worse. So what is fascism? What's the definition of fascism? It's basically a governmental system led by a dictator, having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. Ooh, we've nailed you now, Trump. We have you. Well, let's look at history. Most references to fascism are to Mussolini, Italy's Mussolini, from 1922 to about 1943, when Mussolini, he was hung and killed. And how does that apply to President Trump? Well, let's go through it point to point. Was Trump a dictator? Did he have complete power? No. He was frequently opposed by numerous groups, both parties, both sides, Republicans and Democrats. He was successfully sued over some of his executive actions and orders. He was the subject of numerous investigations by Democrats, which frequently found nothing. In fact, as directly opposed to a dictator, Trump was impeached twice, acquitted once. That's nothing to which a dictator is subject. And I should remind everybody that Trump, as I indicated before, was impeached for a phone call to Ukraine. Well, I have something that I would like to play to you. With that, with luck, you will be able to hear, I hope, for at least the 1,000th time. This is January 23rd of 2020. And this has been ignored. Well, it's been on the internet for at least 5 years that I'm aware of now. This is Vice President Biden crowing about his threats to pull $1 billion in loan guarantees, shoving Ukraine towards insolvency if it didn't immediately fire its prosecutor, Victor Shokin, investigating Burisma Holdings, where Biden's son, Hunter Biden, sat on the board. What you're going to hear, with luck, you're going to see it, is public bribery, with Joe Biden also, to my way of thinking, clearly intimating that, by the way, Barack Hussein Obama is hooked in on this, and he is giving my blessing. He's saying, that's okay. This is March of 2016. That deal was blessed. Joe Biden wouldn't necessarily do that on his own, would he? Unless Barack Hussein Obama is stupid and didn't know what Joe Biden was doing, operating in the cold. And I know Barack Hussein Obama is a lot of things. Stupid is not one of them. Plotting and planning, yeah, those are two really good appropriate words for him. So, of course, nothing happened to Joe Biden, though this is forever immured on the internet. And let me see if I can add this to the stage and play it. Listen now.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Someone who was solid. What's solid? Someone who plays in the roulette wheel, on the laundromat, somebody of that nature, someone reliable, someone who will help us cheat. So, you got to ask yourself, did Hunter Biden make money off of this? Why, yes. Basically a veritable shit ton of money. From 2013 through 2018, Hunter Biden and his company brought in almost $11 million via his role as an attorney and a board member with a Ukrainian firm accused of bribery and his work with a Chinese businessman now accused of fraud, according to an NBC News analysis of a copy of Biden's hard drives and iCloud account and documents released by Republicans on 2 Senate committees. So you got to ask yourself again, you got to be curious. You have to ask yourself questions. Why was Hunter Biden a know-nothing about gas and oil on the board of Burisma at all? Wait, BZ, I know. So does Alan Thomas. Ukraine, number one, Ukraine was and is the corrupt laundromat to the world and to all of its stars, including the Biden crime family. And number two, the oldest schemes imaginable, purchasing the influence, power, and control of VP Biden, which of course required its very own quid pro quo. You be corrupt with me, I'll be corrupt with you, and we both shall benefit. With everybody else that's paying the taxes, like the American taxpayer, funding it all. How cool is that? So the other question, did Trump forcibly suppress opposition and criticism? No. The criticism and opposition was rampant and 24/7 during Trump's term. The people who actually suppressed opposition and criticism were the Democrats, the American media maggots, the DOJ, and the FBI, with election interference utilized as a big old hanging cudgel by censoring Americans, having social media repress individuals on social media and remove their accounts, me, at the behest of the U.S. government. Did Trump regiment all industry and commerce as good fascists do? Not in the slightest. What happened is, in fact, he advocated for American industry and commerce and for a fair and level playing field in world markets. That's essentially all he wanted. Let's make things level for the United States of America. They certainly hadn't been in the past. Was Trump nationalistic? To a great degree, Trump was and is a populist. Hence he makes no bones about this. America first, make America great again, not make Poland great again, not make Estonia great again, not make Liechtenstein great again, make America great again. And these came after literal multiple decades of other nations and countries, many of them our enemies, taking advantage of our largesse, the American taxpayer, our ignorance, there's a shit ton of ignorance in there, our goodwill, because we are essentially a good people, and our conciliatory nature.
Boy, that's for sure. These dudes bent over backwards.
We have bent over backwards for the world.
Yeah.
We
really bent over. We were taking it, hard.
Multiple
decades.
For the first time in a presidency, we were engaged in how many wars, Alan, did we engage in?
Holy crap. Yeah.
Yeah. None. We were engaged in 0 wars under the Trump administration.
Absolutely 0. He runs on that.
Because the primary bad actors knew that Trump had acted. One of his first acts was sending cruise missiles into Syria, and he killed some Russian advisors. Wait, I thought he loved Russians like I love vodka. How come potatoes are the only ones that are functioning?
Well, who really gave him all the money? Like, who really was sending the pallets of cash over there? Trump actually sent one bomb, killed their best dude, wiped them out. And who was the one that sent them the cash? Lots of cash.
You mean like in the back of a C-17 in the dead of night? Something like that.
Like they wouldn't even have anything, nukes or nothing, if it wasn't for that. And Trump actually stopped them cold.
What happened is that we didn't have any wars because they thought Trump was nuts. Kind of like Reagan.
Yeah.
He'd act.
Say, I know where you live.
Would
and
he
you'll
be?
get your
Oh, I
family
wish I
too.
had that video up right now. I'll play
Yeah.
that next Thursday. That's a great video, by the way. Bad actors knew that Trump would act against them if they got silly, stupid, and fattening, and that he would act against aggression. And he did. Was Trump racist? Oh, I have something coming up here. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Okay. Now I know where it is. So was Trump a racist? Well, according to all the race and poverty pimps, yeah, of course he was. But who are they? They are the persons who profit from constantly hitting the cash throttle and the race baiting throttle. However, when you examine Trump's statements in full, with context and full statements, and not with the salient parts dropped on the editing room floor, so to speak, you discover that Trump was the opposite of racist. He only became racist when he entered the fray for president of the United States, running against Hillary Clinton. The truth about Charlottesville. I did an entire show about the truth about Charlottesville. I don't have time to go into it tonight. I got about 12 minutes left on the show. I may go into a little bit overtime. I'm not sure. So no, he's not a racist. This will be the time that maybe I put this up. Trump takes Mandela under his wing. You can still find stuff out in this little device on the internet called the Wayback Machine. So Mandela wanted to come to the United States. He didn't have any way of flying there, so Trump provided him with one of his planes. You know, that's something that a racist would do. Damn Trump for being an abject racist. Now, this is the point where you should look at some timelines, because I did. And this didn't take great investigative digging. Oh, BZ, you're so thorough. At 74, you're smarter than anybody else on the planet. Yeah, everybody knows right there. That's a bullshit alert. No, I'm not. But I do have fingers and a keyboard, and I can have access to the internet myself. Facts are inconvenient things sometimes. So let's throw some timelines and some facts out there. Now, after retirement, former General Mark Milley joined the board of J.P. Morgan Chase in February of 24 this year. Follow me here. J.P. Morgan Chase & Company brought on retired General Mark Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as a senior advisor. Now, the first thing a smart person would do is start to formulate some questions. Oh, why? Milley spent 4 decades in the U.S. military. He's going to advise the bank's board of directors, senior leaders, and clients on dangers around the world. CEO Jamie Dimon told employees in a memo on Thursday, well, what is J.P. Morgan Chase? It happens to be the largest U.S. bank by assets, and Milley will rock even more personal cash and assets to embiggen his little wallet and make it a lot larger. With his board seat, since his retirement in 23, Mark Milley has somehow magically, mystically jumped into the faculties of Georgetown and Princeton, and he's making big bucks coin on the paid speaking circuit, and he landed a cushy senior advisor spot on J.P. Morgan Chase's bank's board. So military personnel have a phrase for this, and it's called cashing in. Imagine that. As a select few like Milley managed to transition from a capped military pay of $204,000 a year to, well, the sky's the damn limit. Yay, Milley and others like him. So it's whatever you can get equals whatever you can negotiate, depending on how much you hate Trump. And there's the crux of the biscuit. Right there. Bob Woodward's book, War, which you can already locate at thriftbooks.com, did you see what I did there? Was released on October 15th this year. In it, Woodward brings in Milley and Milley's labeling of President Trump a fascist. Let's go back. Let's examine some stuff. What do we know? Now, it takes some time to turn around a book. It takes time to write a book. And Milley already made his deal with J.P. Morgan Chase in February of this year, 2024. So why the doubling down by retired General Mark Milley on Trump being called a fascist? Now it gets interesting. So let's realize this. I found an article because I have fingers and a keyboard and I know how to access the internet, even though I'm a moron. Here's this article. BlackRock and JP Morgan are backing a $15 billion investor to fund and rebuild Ukraine. This was a story in March of 2024. It would cost almost $500 billion to reconstruct Ukraine. So a coalition of investors with support from BlackRock and JP Morgan are aiming to put together a $15 billion aid package to rebuild Ukraine. In a new group known as the Ukraine Development Fund, they're supporting investments from state bodies and capital markets. The fund is going to bring together a consortium of investors to finance at least $15 billion of reconstruction work in the country after 2 years of Russian invasion. So you note the timeline, note February of 2024, note that's when Milley vaults into the chair at JP Morgan Chase. So you couldn't possibly think that all of this crap was put in the works, like yesterday, right? Do you? I bet it was planned for a while. So you have to ask yourself, logical people, thinking people ask questions. Who has had constant access to every bit of military and intelligence information regarding Ukraine, do you suppose, for at least a decade? And who has sat in the high chair of being able to make decisions about something like this? That wouldn't be General Mark Milley, would it? Because though he's retired, big perk, he and others like him always managed to retain their top secret and above clearances with access to the same information as before via their friends or directly. Shh, don't tell anybody this. Let's keep it a secret between us. Or via the computers they have at home installed by some of the finest former NSA tech employees on the planet. Why wouldn't you? He doesn't have a need for this information anymore, but why would you cut him off? That seems a little judgmental and a little harsh, don't you? I do. So the deal is they know people who know people. And Milley knows people who know people who know the right people all over. So President Trump, 45, cannot possibly be allowed to be President Trump, 47, right? The corrupt Ukraine laundromat, it never stops. That machine never quits. Thug's law. You know what that is, right? It keeps churning out cash like an ATM with no PIN required. So let me distill things down to this. Wow, that's a bright light.
Can you see?
I can see.
I was trying to show you over there.
So
I'm in the studio.
You are. So I'm going to distill things down to this, and then we're going to wrap up this show.
Oh, I did get the bright light. Darn it.
I know. Because sometimes actions are fairly transparent, but not super intentionally. Yet you have to go out and do a little bit of digging yourself. I don't have any clearance. I still have some fingers. My brain isn't totally fried with vodka just yet. So one has to actually do a little bit of digging. And I did a little bit of internet digging. And I managed to, in my soused stupor, put this stuff together. JP Morgan and BlackRock are backing an investor to rebuild Ukraine, requiring about $500 billion.
A lot of money.
Next question should logically be, would BlackRock or JP Morgan Chase invest unless they believe they could make a staggering amount of money on returns?
It would only take a small percentage of $1 trillion to be a lot of money.
I can't even count there. I can't even count to 1 million. I don't have enough toes or fingers. So would they invest if they didn't think they could make a killing on the money in the future? Oh, duh. Who has hitched his star to JP Morgan? A partner in this, General Mark Milley, Who wants to get us out of needless wars? Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. You see what's happening? You see now why Milley despises Trump and will do anything, say anything to have that accomplished. Because, like the movie Dune, Trump threatens the spice, and the spice must flow. That's the bottom line. Now, I leave you with this. Milley is just one DC turd in a punch bowl that it comprises all of DC and a good deal of the rest of this nation. The deep state is comprised of a ton of people like him. Now take Milley and his machinations and multiply it by 10, by 100, by 1,000, by all of these people in various huge corporations who have their fingers on everything, and your American taxpayer dollars, they're funding it all.
And you want to hear what the worst part is? In this election, we have a chance to finally change what has been happening for years and years and years and years that our vote hasn't mattered on. And that's the bureaucrats, Milley, all these guys put in place. And it doesn't matter who the president is, they stay there. And they're actually the ones selling everything out. They're the ones making the regulations. They're the ones enforcing the regulations. They're the deep state. And it hasn't mattered who's in office really until Trump, where he's actually talking about cleaning house, getting these guys that die in their office, and they make deals, they make all kinds of money, and they sell us down the river. They sell our factories out. They regulate you out of business. They do this stuff, and Congress won't do anything because they're being greased as well.
They're the beneficiaries.
That's right. So it doesn't change. So then all of a sudden a guy comes in that's a big, giant billionaire businessman. He knows the game. They all love him until he decides he doesn't like what they're doing to America, his country. He wants to clean it up and change it. And they know he can. They know he knows. He was at the party. He saw. He knows. And he knows who, where, when, why. And do you think that might be why they're panicking so freaking bad? That here comes the big scary orange man with a dead cat on his head that knows where the bodies are buried. He knows whose bank accounts went where the money goes, why they're doing it. And he's going to fix it for his grandkids. And that's what his goal is for all of America's grandkids. Nobody else is. Certainly Milley's not. He doesn't care about his grandkids. But actually, does he? He's making all kinds of money. He thinks his grandkids are going to be taken care of. But does he really realize that the scum that he's messing with, soon as he's done, so is his family. Everyone doesn't matter to these people. When you don't have any more to give, you're out of there. And they don't care who dies, or they don't care what happens to your grandkids. And that's what's been running our country. That's what's get rid of our factories. That's when we vote, we've been voting these assholes in there that will keep the bureaucrats in there. And they're actually the ones that in Congress is allowing, everybody allows it. They're all bottom paid for. You can't buy a billionaire that wants to save his family and his businesses, because he knows he's also can be taken out if he doesn't, if we don't do something. If we don't do something this time, we're at the end. We don't have a second chance. We are in that last hoorah, the Hail Mary, so to speak. And if we don't get it right, you can kiss your grandkids' future goodbye. We won't be America. Like, look at it like that. Because these dudes are selling us out to China and all the other places. When your relatives got washed out in North Carolina, what did they do? Did they have money for you? But did they go and give $150 billion to another country the same week? They did. And they'll lie and say they didn't.
The depth and the breadth of corruption from the deep state is so wide and so marked and so amazing as to be staggering. And as I indicated, that's just one person.
Yeah, it's
Now,
only one. Just imagine the whole bureaucracy and all the little ABC agencies that don't get elected. They go from president to Congress to Congress. They stay there until they retire, and they drive their agenda home all the whole time. Doesn't matter.
That's how it goes for tonight. I'm BZ. That's Alan Thomas. Thank you for listening. And perhaps it's time to go here. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live and direct right here on the SHR Media Group, on Rumble, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, on X, Twitch, Spreaker. Promotional consideration as per... Oh, and thanks to my grand guest, who you will see again, Alan Thomas. And so thanks to the wonderful people who gave me promotional consideration. It was tough. It was so tough to get these people. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, and about the board that I use, the Arrakis, and also Pratt & Whitney engines providing and producing thrust. You can trust. And also tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to them. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. My car has a bad battery, so I have to take it in tomorrow morning at 7:30. Got to get up early. Everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Alan Thomas. See you Thursday night. God bless. Take care. Everybody be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody. Night, Mama. Night, Ben. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.